Welcome to When Not Yet Becomes Right Now, the podcast where we dive deep into the moments of transformation, the times when not yet shifts into right now and everything changes. I'm your host, Jen Ginty, and this podcast is all about those pivotal moments in our life journeys. You know the ones when the hesitation fades, when we take that first step, even if it feels like a leap. It's in these moments that growth and healing begins. Each episode will explore stories of resilience, moments of clarity, and the sparks that ignite real change. From personal experiences to expert insights, we'll uncover how people navigate the complex journey we call life and come out stronger on the other side. Whether you're searching for that spark in your own life or just curious about how change unfolds for others, you're in the right place. We'll discuss the ups and downs, the breakthroughs and setbacks, and how to embrace the right now, even when it feels out of reach. Because sometimes the hardest part of the journey is realizing that the moment you've been waiting for has already arrived. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's get started. Warning. In this episode, we discuss suicidal ideation and being in a mental health crisis. Please take care while listening. Also, we discuss the usefulness of medication for mental health purposes. These are opinions, and any discussion of medications and its purpose in your mental health journey should be between you and your physician. Hello, welcome to When Not Yet Becomes Right Now. I'm here today with a wonderful guest. Her name is Haaj Ferogh, and she is a special education teacher. We've talked before this, and Haj has such an amazing story to tell us. So I want to introduce her and have Haj tell you a bit about herself and her background. Welcome, Haj.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Haaj. I am a 38-year-old Muslim American living in New York. And yes, I am a special education teacher in New York City. I love my little kittens, as I call them. I guess you'll just get to know a little more about me as the show progresses. So ask anything, and I am an open book. I'm willing to answer anything with a smile on my face, as always. And let's see what happens.
That's great. Tell me a bit about your background. Are you first generation Muslim American?
I am, yes. My parents came in the 80s as refugees when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. So they came to America. They never went back since then, which obviously, if you see the news now, it's totally understandable. And I've never went. I have no plans to go. I am more of an American than I am as an Afghan or a Muslim. It's a little battle between, my culture and that culture, but I feel like I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb over there.
Mhm. So tell me a bit about growing up as a first generation.
It was a little bit of like I said, it was like a battle going back and forth because here are things like I have to know the language. Thankfully, I do know the language. I speak both languages fluently. But at the same time, because I was born in America, there are certain things here that are the norm. Whereas for someone who came to America, it's like, oh my gosh. Like, for example, if we go to a restaurant, obviously there's going to be a drinks menu. There's alcohol displayed everywhere, like at a bar. You go to a bar, you can just ask for a glass of water, but God forbid you go there, they're going to be like, why are you at a bar? There's other stuff besides alcohol that they serve there. So for me, going to these types of places where it's like, it's nothing, there's alternatives. But for a Muslim, it's like, this is the worst thing in the world. Also, I have tattoos. Initially, I wasn't into them, but now I have a couple of tattoos, and I'm like, you know what? Why not? It's not a big deal. So that's my way of expressing things. So I'm leaning more as an American than I am as a Muslim. It can be rough, but you know, I've been living in America for 38 years. So this is home to me. This is norm to me.
Right. Yeah, totally understand. So when we talked before, we talked about when you were a teenager, when 9/11 occurred and what had happened in your realm and what you were feeling, what was
Mhm.
coming off from people, what you had felt about the overall identification.
Mhm. Um, 9/11 was very rough, especially for any Muslim. Given the fact that I am from Afghanistan, 11, no one really knew where that country was. They didn't even know that such a country existed. As soon as that tragedy, that event happened, unfortunately, that's how we got the spotlight, as you call it. Not really the best way, obviously, but being the fact that I was in high school, rowdy teenagers, they get angry. What do? They're violent. So luckily, I wasn't very much the type to engage in all of that stuff. I just kept a low profile. I went to school, I came home. I just went to one class after another, and I didn't really bother anyone. But there were times where a lot of other Muslim kids in school were beaten up. They were shoved into the wall, maybe even lockers in the gym. But luckily for me, I definitely did get bullied. Like there was one particular time I remember when I was in think it was a math class, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was math. There was a girl sitting behind me and she had her leg on I'm not sure if they have them in other schools, but I know in my school they had it, but it's a chair and then underneath your chair is a little basket where you can just put your books and stuff. And she put her foot on that basket and she just kept shaking it and shaking it and shaking it, causing my seat to shake. And I could have just like turned around and said, "What the fuck are you doing? Like knock this shit off." But instead, I knew she wanted a reaction out of me. I knew she wanted me to turn around and say, "What the heck are you doing? Like, knock this shit off." So, being that I have a ton of patience, I decided to say to myself, you know what? She wants a reaction out of me. This is all because of a bullying thing. Keep shaking my chair. I don't care. I kept doing my work and she kept shaking it for about 45 minutes. And because I was being very passive, eventually she stopped, but I'm like, "I'm not gonna do it. I know what you want." Like, it was just stupid, petty things like that for me. Luckily, I didn't get hit or anything, but like I said, it was just the dumb things like that made them want to get a reaction out of me.
That must have been just overwhelming at times.
It was.
Yeah. So how do you think that this affected your overall, identity and, your mental health during that time?
Um, During high school, it was a little hard for a while because of 9/11. The first year, maybe the second year of the events, it was just like nonstop bullying and name calling and just dumb things like, "Hey, how's your Uncle Benny?" Obviously Bin Laden. But I a lot of us would be like, "He's not even Afghan. Yes, he's there, but he's not Afghan. How about do some research before you do some name calling?" Things like that. So we would kind of like give smart ass answers also. But like at the same time, you're being an idiot. Like you're saying these things, but you're not even doing your research. You dumb 16-year-old.
Well, that's it, right? It's the
Yeah,
teenagers who, they just
we're
they just want to say something. They're
of
not quite
course,
thinking
yeah.
about the effect overall that it has.
That's the thing, right? And so for a long time, I don't want to say I was paranoid or on edge, but for a while, like a lot of us were always just like, "Are we going to be okay? Are we going to be okay if we go to school, we go to class, and one day some kid is getting beat up after school, and then the next day he's fine." So for us, it was more of being on edge, and that just takes a toll on you every single day, like mentally. Hmm.
Let's get into, the afterwards. And we talked a bit about, your mental health challenges that you've gone
Hmm.
through. Can you talk
Hmm.
a little bit more about those?
Sure. A lot of it stemmed from my past. I don't want to go into too much details. I don't want to trigger anyone, but there was a lot of PTSD within my family. I can say that my brother was a major part of it. Over the years, I don't want to say it worsened, but over the years for me, mentally it worsened because um as I got older, I needed to stop my life in order to protect my family. And it's a huge toll on you when you have all of these dreams and these these goals that you want to meet, but you can't because you're stopping your life all for your family, which I get. You want to protect your family, but at the same time, I kept putting myself second. I remember for a long time, I stopped grad school. I barely had any friends because I wouldn't go out. Because anytime I went out, that fear would be, what if something happens to my family while I'm out? Even if I did ever go out, that thought was always in the back of my head, like, oh my gosh, it's like the anxiety. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if something happens if I'm away? It was just so much to the point where I just quit everything for the sake of my mom. And it took me a long time to finally say, I've got to put myself a little bit first, if not entirely.
So, what were the fears that you were having that would happen to your family?
My brother was very violent, so he would throw things, he would yell. The smallest thing would get him angry. Even if it's something like, for example, I'm trying to think of an event that happened. I can't think of anything specific, but like he got he got the wrong food or whatever. He would get ticked off, throw things. I'll never forget one time we were in the kitchen. I can't remember exactly what happened, but he got so angry. We had like a whole watermelon. He grabbed it, smashed it on the kitchen floor. And of course, who had to clean it up? Me and my mom. He wouldn't do it because to him, he it was very narcissistic. He was right. Everything was nope, I'm perfect. It was your fault. You're the reason why I had to do this. So if anyone has ever gone through a relationship or has a family member who is a narcissist, you are always walking on eggshells because you just never know when they're going to snap.
Yeah,
That's
I
the problem.
actually, yeah, I have a similar situation when my oldest son was younger. He had,
Mhm.
explosive behavior. He had a lot of depression, and he was diagnosed when he was 4 with Asperger's, which
Oh
is,
wow.
yeah, on the autism spectrum. They no
Mhm.
longer have that in the DSM. It's just autism spectrum.
Mhm.
But throughout the years, he had a lot of, anger, and he would snap pretty quickly. And, over the years, it got better, he with help. But I would call him my Tasmanian devil because he would throw things, he would run around, I'd have to hide my youngest because he was so upset. So I
Mhm.
definitely understand that fear that, if you're not around, that someone could get hurt if
Absolutely.
this person was unable to control their anger. I
And that's exactly what it was. So for that reason, the explosiveness of the anger and impulsiveness of throwing something, possibly even harming my mom, things like that was the reason why I was like, I can't go to school because if I'm at school, 3 hours was the class, and then traveling there, so that's about 5 hours or so, maybe 5 hours out of the house. To me, I was always like, anything can happen in those 5 hours. My mom could just ask him a question and it would just take him off and do something. So I was like, I can't do this. I need to just go to work and come home and stay there.
Yeah, yeah. So did your brother get help for this?
According to him, when he was living in California for a few years, he told me that he went to see a therapist. I'm not sure how true that is. Hopefully, it is true because I did notice when he came back. Before he came back, he said, I'm moving back to New York. And I said to him, you need to understand that just because like we're not talking to you does not mean we're angry at you. We've got our own lives, we have our own things that we're dealing with. 5 years ago was different compared to now. Things have changed. So you need to control yourself and stop being so angry over the little things. He said okay. And I've noticed that he was fine since then. There are times where he still gets a little angry, but not to the extent that it was years ago, which is
Great.
great. So, which I do believe at this point, maybe he was telling me the truth that he really did see a therapist.
That's great. It makes my heart feel good when I know that someone has gone understood what is happening with them and reached out for help.
Mhm.
So let's continue on. Did you end up getting your college degree?
I did, yes. For I went back to school. I got my degree. I'm going back to school now to further my education. So I'm doing that too. I've started to go out more uh years ago, but I've started to go out more. I am I'm traveling a lot more also now solo because now I feel like it's okay. Now he's doing fine. He's got his own life now and I can go be 3,000 miles away and not have to worry about anything. So it's a huge weight off my shoulders knowing that my anxiety has gotten a little bit lowered now. It's much better now because those fears are now slowly diminishing.
That's great. So tell us about you did have struggles with suicidal
Mhm.
ideology. We'd spoken of that. Tell me a bit more about where you were at.
Um, so these ideologies, everyone always says, I wish I was dead. Things like that. But that's like normal. Everyone says that when something doesn't go their way, which is fine. But for me, it started in April. I was in Ireland for spring break at the end of April. I went there. There's a whole history behind wanting to go there. This was based on someone who was very close to me, who I truly cared about and cherished. She had said that she's always wanted to go to Ireland. And so Ireland just kept calling me. Like it was just always lingering in the back of my head. Then find out that JetBlue now starts going to Dublin. And I'm like, okay, this has got to be a sign. Maybe I should go. So I go. Um, I get there at 10 in the morning. I'm jet lagged a little bit, but I shower, I rest a little bit. And coincidentally, one of the girls at work, she was also going to be in Dublin that week. And so we had agreed to meet each other to hang out. And I texted her and I said, hey, I'm in Ireland. I just landed. So let me know whenever you want to meet up. We'll do something. This was around like noonish now. And she had texted back to say, okay, around 3 o'clock, we'll meet. We'll go to the Guinness storefront, which is their factory, which is beautiful. Um, and then around 12:30, I got these thoughts, and it's like you're worthless. You are so ridiculous. You have no reason to be living anymore. Things like that. And so, majority of the reason why I felt this way is because of this one individual from December who I was very close to, who had mentioned that she's always wanted to go to Ireland. Our friendship, or whatever you want to call it, kind of faded a little bit. And so I felt like I was the reason behind all of it, responsible for it, even though I know I wasn't. But when you get these thoughts of you're awful, you're worthless, you're just these types of things, it's really hard to get out of it. But I remember my supervisor and a couple of my friends at work had said, if you ever have these types of thoughts again, dial 988, which is a suicide crisis hotline number. And even if you don't plan to ever do it, but if you're just getting these thoughts, these feelings, dial that number. And I did. Granted, I was in Ireland and that's an American hotline number. I had to think of a way how can I reach it? And I remembered because I'm a tech savvy. I downloaded a VPN, located myself in America, dialed 988, and I talked to a counselor and I told him the situation. And he said, I'm not going to end this conversation until I know you are safe with your friend that you're supposed to meet in 2 hours. So for the next 2 hours, this person was talking about everything, just asking questions from like, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite animal? Oh, you're in Ireland? What are your plans? What are you planning to do there? How long are you staying there? Just any questions to keep me busy, because obviously the goal is to keep me from doing anything stupid. So finally, for the 2 hours that they were talking to me, I finally met up with my friend and I said, I see my friend across the street. She's wearing that pink coat. And they said, is it safe enough to end the conversation? I said, yes, it is. I met with my friends and her family, hung out for like 3 hours or so, had dinner, sweet people. And at the end of it, when I went back to my hotel, I texted her and I said, thank you for meeting up with me. I know I'm sorry if I looked a little off. I was jet lagged. I didn't tell her about the situation that happened. Obviously, I didn't feel like it was the right time to say anything, but I just apologized that if I looked a little off or I wasn't too talkative. She didn't mind. She said, "I understand you were probably tired." And the one thing that she said to me that really, to this day, it's still stuck in my head. I've never met her parents before, but she said, "My mom thinks you have a kind soul." And when she said that, I said to myself, whatever these thoughts are, fuck them. Excuse my language.
Okay.
But whatever these thoughts are, F them. Because here is someone who has no idea who you are. She's met you for the very first time, this woman of your friend. And even though you weren't very talkative, you tried your hardest to be as friendly as possible. And she sees that you are a good hearted person.
Yes, yes. And I think that's really important for those who struggle with suicidal
Absolutely.
ideation. It's so important for us to have the ways that we can reach out to others and to hear from our friends, our family, that we are good people, that we are the people that they want in their lives. And even by this first time that she met you, she knew that you were a good soul and that she wanted you to be in her life. And I just want to talk a little bit about 988
Mhm.
because the 988 code is so important. I think it only came out 3 years ago, but it has saved so many lives. And it's really important for people to remember. And I'm so glad that you remembered that number because once you reach out, they keep you in the moment. They keep you from dissociating and getting into a worse place. They keep you talking and, expressing yourself in that moment. And so I think that it was such a wonderful thing that you were able to reach out to them and to have a plan and to meet up with this new friend that really saw right into you, saw how good you are as a person.
Thank you. Yeah, anyone who's struggling, I say dial 988 because I was very lucky enough to have come across a counselor who I connected with who said, I'm not ending this call. I mean, I'm sure they would all do that, but for someone to spend 2 hours on the line with me, they really go above and beyond to make sure that you are absolutely safe. And I couldn't, and if it wasn't for my supervisor or the girls at work who had mentioned this, who knows what I could have done. Maybe I would never would have done anything at all. But the fact is that they were the ones who suggested it. And I actually went ahead and said to myself, I need to dial this number. I just need a little bit of extra help because I was in Ireland all by myself. This was my very first solo trip. Usually I go with friends or family, so being entirely alone in a place where I knew no one. I've never been to Ireland before, so this was brand new territory. Already I was a little scared. So now imagine having these thoughts entirely alone. Who do you turn to? 988 helped me a lot. They made me feel so much comfortable. And just through sheer coincidence, my friend happened to be in the same city. So
That's
that helped
that's
a lot also.
that's incredible. And it's thank you for sharing that. What would you consider was your not yet?
After this incident happened, I was seeing a therapist, but it was the medication that that was my not yet. because they said, this is beyond just seeing a therapist. Therapy was also a little bit of my not yet because it took me a long time to see one. I didn't start seeing one until January. So all of these years that I had PTSD and these depression, I never went to see a therapist because there was always this stigma. You can't see a therapist. Whatever issues you have, just figure it out on your own. Why do you need to talk to someone about it? Go outside, go do all your fun things. So it was always that stigma of seeing a therapist is, whoa, why would you want to see a therapist? And then my other yet would have been medication because now I'm on an antidepressant, really helpful. Those of you who are hesitant about medication, I am just going to be a big advocate on Lexapro and say it does help a lot. My sister-in-law is a nurse practitioner, and I had asked her, I'm like, I just want your professional advice on this. This is what I'm going through. I'm really scared to be on medication. And she goes, there's nothing to be worried about. Every single person in the world is on some sort of medication, whether it's for diabetes or depression or high blood pressure. It's not going to be lifelong. This is only going to be a temporary thing. It's to help you. And then your doctor, your prescriber, anyone, after a few months, they'll notice if you're getting better or not. And so I said, okay, I will try it. And to be honest with you, the relief and the load off my shoulders of all these feelings have been gone. Well, I don't want to say gone, but it's been helping me so much where I don't have that low feeling anymore that I used to have. So my not yet was always like stigmas, fears.
I think there's so many different ideas out in the world of, is medication good? Is it bad? Should you
Hmm.
be on it lifelong? That kind of thing. And, there are biological issues that go along with depression and anxiety, and especially for people who have been in trauma. As someone who lives with complex PTSD, it's inside my body. It's changed my body chemistry and my brain neurons. They're all different. And so we're not neurotypical in that sense. And
Hmm.
specifically for depression, I know for a fact that I live with a chemical depression and I need the medications that will help me to get to that level that you can't say it's normal, but
Hmm.
average level,
Right.
right? That
Right.
understanding, you know, my body needs this extra something or other, but you need that extra jolt in your system to keep you at the level that people, the average person, lives at.
Hmm.
So, there are many people who'll say, "I'll never be on medication. I'll never give my children medication." And, I say, "That's your choice, absolutely." But there's no reason to vilify medication for mental health issues.
Absolutely. I am a big advocate of it. I know a lot of children, since I am in special eds and everything, a lot of the kids are on medication. Your your goal is to live comfortably. And if you're constantly struggling, are you really comfortable? You may not be. It won't hurt to even try the smallest, lowest dosage, whatever it is, and just see if it just takes the edge off a little bit. Just see if it helps you. That's all. And then you can tell your doctor, like, you know what? I tried it for 3 weeks. It didn't work for me. I don't like it. Then they'll just slowly wean you off again.
And I think that it's really important for people to make their own medical decisions
Yeah,
and
of
what they put in their
course.
body. But yeah,
Mhm,
I myself have been on the same amount of uh, depression medication, antidepressants,
mhm,
for most of my life, and it has kept me in the place that I need to be while I work on my own trauma. While I work
right.
on the background of it, what I have survived and what I'm living
Mhm,
with. So yeah, I mean it's not something that you want to force on anyone, but giving your own experience sometimes can help people to better
Mhm.
understand that they don't have to worry about going on a medication that can help them to live. It's
Right.
just like you
And
said, it's just like taking it for diabetes, taking insulin. It keeps you
mhm,
at a quality of life you really need.
right. To be comfortable, because do you really want to be suffering? Do you really want to go through all of this stuff? Of course not. And also, like I said, it's not lifelong. I know many people who've been on it for a few months and they're fine afterward. And I've known people who have been on it for almost 12 years now. So it all depends on the person. You may just need it for a few months. Me, I don't know yet because I started it in May and now we're coming to October. So who knows? Because I've been doing so well, my doctor in a couple of months may say, let's start weaning you off. I thought for a long time this is going to be me forever on medication. But once I heard other people say that they've also been on Lexapro, they've been on it for a few months. One said I've been on it for a couple of years. Another said I've been on it for 12 years now. So everyone is different.
Yes,
That doesn't
yes,
mean that I'm going to be on it forever either.
right, right. So, would you consider that your right now is getting that psychiatric medication help? Or what would you say is what really brought you into making the change in your life to feel better?
A little bit of that, definitely, but also going back to Ireland, I had a friend who reached out to me the very next day after my incident. I got a message from an ex, and he was just making me feel bad, saying I'm worthless, I'm a liar, I'm a fake. So again, those thoughts came back because I broke it off with him. I was at the Cliffs of Moher, and I was just contemplating, like, am I even worth it? Like, he's saying this, I have these feelings. Is it really even worth living anymore? So before anything drastic happened, I looked around and I said to myself, you know what, universe, just give me a sign to know that everything will be okay and that I'm a good person and that I'm worth it, that I'm that and my the future will be okay. And coming back, I was on a tour. So coming back in the coach bus going back to Dublin, I got a message from an old friend from junior high school and high school. His name was Danny. He says, mind you, at this time in April, nobody knew anything about my mental. I never mentioned a word about this. So he sent me a message on Instagram saying, "Hey Haj, I just want to give you a little story. Back in high school, I hated you. You were a Muslim. 9/11 happened, and by proxy, because you were Muslim, I hated you. However, you were also my friend, and I saw that how they were bullying you. And I said to myself, how can I hate her when she's my friend and she's not even responsible for the events that happened?" And so he goes, because of how they were treating you, and just it helped me open my mind to realize that I need to embrace other cultures, embrace other people, and really get to know their stories before I judge them. He just goes a little on and on saying, because of you, I've traveled more, I got to meet more people, interesting people, yada, yada, yada. But at the end, he writes, and he closes it off by saying, you were always great, you are great, keep being great. And so that was more of my like right now moment because he had 20 years to tell me this. He could have told me this even while we were in high school. But yet, out of nowhere, when I asked for the universe to just give me a sign or something to tell me that everything will be okay, this is your time to just take your life back. Do what you need to do to be happy again. And of all the times, it was that time that Danny sends me a message. I thought it was a little creepy and eerie, but then looking back on it, I'm like, you know what? Ireland was calling me for a reason. There was a reason why this trip happened and why it was always in the back of my mind because it took me 4,000 miles to finally take my life back and realize I'm a great person after all. I don't care what other people say. I need help and I'm getting the help that I need.
That's wonderful. It is. It feels like a sign, right? It feels
Mhm.
like that's the moment. That was the place you were supposed to be in this time. in this moment and you got that signal from the universe. Where are you at right now with your journey?
I'm still in school now. I'm just finishing up. Um, I I'm still working, obviously. I love my job. I love my little babies. Um, the one thing I've done a lot, which a lot of people find to be cliche, but it really does work, believe it or not, working out. I do boxing, which is a great stress releaser. Oh my God, you just punch and get all of that frustration out. So I do that. I feel good at the end of the day when I do that. So anyone who ever wonders what's a good way to regulate your emotions when it comes to mental health, believe it or not, exercise really does help. I was I don't want to say against it, but I was always like, yeah, 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 whatever. But it really has helped me. It saved my life. I'm actually in my car because I'm going to go to the gym right after.
That's awesome. Great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel the same way. And with a lot of different therapies for, PTSD, that kind of thing, one of the biggest parts of it is when you need to regulate your body or you have some distress that you need to tolerate is to get yourself out of the thinking mode and into a
Mm-hmm.
doing mode. So
Mm-hmm.
exercise really takes that place and you're concentrating on your body and doing what you feel is right for your body. And it really does help in the end. Even just a 20-minute walk when you're feeling down can change your viewpoint.
Absolutely. And I've done walks also. It's just something about connecting with nature or just having that fresh air. It really does help a lot, believe it or not.
It does. It absolutely does. Thank you so much, Haj. This was such a great conversation. Is there anything you would like our guests to remember from your story?
Just an overall advice, no matter how low you're feeling, reach out to people who really do care about you. And I know sometimes they'll give you cold, hard truths and it will hurt you, but they're saying it for your own good. So don't look at them as the enemies. They really are your friends. Always surround yourself around positivity. It can be hard sometimes, but definitely be around positive people, positive friends, because that's how it'll lift you up and get you out of your funk. And the biggest thing that I've done, well, the two biggest things that I've done, self love and affirmations. I am wonderful. I am great. I am loved. Things like that will really wire your brain into remembering that you are a good person and all those negative thoughts that you've had will eventually be thrown away. And also gratitude. Be grateful for everything you have. You could have the worst life ever, but even something as good as saying, I woke up another day, be grateful. And I'm telling you, if you do these things, I promise you, things will get better. It has for me. So if it has for me, I promise you, it will happen to you too.
Thank you. That's great to go away with. Such a great story, and you're such a strong person. Thank you for this conversation.
Likewise, you too. Thank you.
Raj has such a great story about overcoming that feeling of not being worthy. And I am so happy that she used the 988 hotline. It's funny, she was in Ireland, but she was able to use it because she's tech savvy and she was able to figure out a way to call an American line and to talk with someone to help her through the mental health crisis that she was going through. And I think I said it in the episode that it just came out a few years ago, but actually the 988 hotline has been out since 2005. It's just that I feel like it's brand new. And it's been helping so many people through that feeling of not being worthy and not feeling in control in the moment. And so I highly, highly recommend remembering, even putting it in your notes on your phone that the 988 hotline is available. You can call or you can text, and someone will be there to talk with you. And I think this was just an important thing to talk about in this understanding of mental health and when we do need to recognize that we need help. So thank you for listening today.